Okay, I totally forgot to push that, sorry. I am going to record my lectures. So you'll see these lectures are on record. Let me also quickly ask you, is everybody seeing the text coming up there on the screen, the transcription? Are you seeing that? Okay. Someone just asked, I've never had that before, so someone just asked me to enable that. Is that distracting, or does someone need that?
You can turn it on or off depending on your preference.
Claire, so you can individually turn that on or off?
You have to enable it, but after you enable it, yeah, we can turn it on or off.
Okay, cool. Thanks. You would think I would know this, having done this for about 1.5 years, but I don't. Okay, someone just asked me to enable it, and I'm happy to do that. But if you want to turn that off, that's absolutely fine. And before I get to the resources, I am recording my lectures, and I will put the lectures up on my YouTube channel for reference. Okay. I thought about that. I've done that for the last year, and what I found is that students, I think, like that, not because they want to hear me drone on and on, but in case they miss a class or need that for a review for an exam, right? So just so you know that the lectures will be accessible to you as well, right? Okay. So back to here we are. So these are the 2 resources that you need: contemporary environmental issues and exercises in environmental science. So as I was saying, as you all know, right, textbooks are chronically expensive, and sometimes they're just silly expensive. And most of the books I was using for this course were sort of 25 to 30 chapters, and we could never get through them. So I decided about a decade ago to write a short, I hope comprehensive, I hope sort of digestible book on the major environmental issues. And what I found over the subsequent editions, at least the comments that I've gotten back from students, are that they find that it really helps to have the lectures and the backup material in the book to be, pretty close to one another, to be there for reference and to back up what we talk about in class. So the contemporary environmental issues is the accompanying textbook, and I also need to mention that I use the proceeds here at TCU from these books. They go back into our conservation on ground on the work in Costa Rica and South Africa. So I think that's important, right? I'm not, buying Aston Martins and yachts based on the royalties from these textbooks. We do put this back into our conservation work on the ground in South Africa and in Costa Rica. The exercises in environmental science, you'll use that in the lab, right? And your lab TA, James, will talk about that at 10 o'clock, okay? As I've put in the syllabus, everybody, you can buy these as hard copies. You can, I would encourage you to buy them as ebooks because it's even cheaper to buy them as the e-pack. Has anybody had any issues getting these? The links are in the syllabus on being able to get these. I do get a question quite often about when we get nearer the exams, so how much from the exams come from lecture and how much comes from the book. Just to hopefully calm any fears there, I never go into any textbook and just pull out some esoteric fact, right? The book is, I hope, good background reading and supplemental reading for the material we cover in class. Okay, so those are the 2 resources. All right, let's move on. So how have I broken down the grades here? Okay, so your final grade is determined as follows. There are 3 exams, and each exam counts 20%. So there isn't a comprehensive final that counts more or anything like that. I know if you've taken courses from other faculties, sometimes they do comprehensive finals, sometimes they don't. I personally don't. I like to talk about material and then examine you on that, put it to bed, move on, right? So the course is evenly divided up into 3 sections, and each section counts 20% on your exams. And they will be taken on Wednesdays, except the final one at the moment I've got on Thursday, the 29th. So you can mark off Wednesday, and then the following Thursday for your exams. And I haven't scheduled anything else during this lecture other than the exams, because I want you to have plenty of time to do the exams. And I'll do a full review before we do exam number 1, so you get a sense as to how I set exams. But I do make you write in an exam. It's not just multiple choice. There will be short answers and written responses as well. So I want you to be able to take your time and focus on the exam, and then not worry about other stuff. So 3 exams, each worth 20%. Your lab is worth 25%, right? And your lab TA, again, James will walk you through that from 10 o'clock onwards. At the end of the class, at the end of July, he will turn into me a grade for your lab. And those are quizzes and your lab exams and so on, your written material in lab. And he just turns in a grade, and that counts 25%, right? So that's 85% of your grade. So 3 exams worth 20 and your lab grade worth 25. So the other 15% is made up as follows, right? I'm going to ask you to do 6, I call them tweets. You won't post these on Twitter, but you'll post these online under discussions. When you go into TCU Online, you will see assignments and discussions, and there are 6 topics there. And these are short reflections on these topics, on the material. And they come after we've actually covered them, right? And it's an opportunity to get you to sit and think a little bit about the topic. It's not just a summary, right? It's not just, hey guys, today we talked about climate change and we did X, Y, and Z, right? This is a bit more sort of thought-provoking, I think. So it's a reflective thinking. You know, you can, what surprised you about a topic? You might disagree with a particular issue. But I do want these to be of a maximum length of 280 characters, right? Not 280 words. So exactly the length that if you were posting this on Twitter, right? So no mini essays. And they are open during the week, and then they're due at a midnight as per the syllabus. So when you look at the syllabus, and I won't change screens right now, but when I look at the schedule, for example, the first one is due tomorrow night at 11:59, and that'll be over the lecture on the Anthropocene, which I'm going to cover this morning. Okay. Okay. Hey, Michaela, I just saw your chat. Yeah, no problems. We'll chat a little later about that. Okay, so there are 6 tweets, and I do drop 1. So you do get 1 get out of jail free card in case you forget or you're traveling. But I need 5 of those to count. So each one basically counts 1%, and that counts a total of 5% of your grade, right? So that's a little bit of written. And then this is the big one in terms, oh, no, sorry, let me just give you a couple of quick examples, right? These were 2 tweets from the course that I taught in 2019. And I just had these on record, right? So here's one on the Anthropocene. Regardless of political bias, it's very hard to deny that the Anthropocene's Earth population is exponentially growing, as it's more than doubled in the past century. We are taking advantage of the commons, and both people and animals are starving because of it. The question is, what are we going to do about it, right? So spot on, right? Good length, nice little summary, little open-ended question at the end. Here's one on humans leading environmental change. Whether people believe we have entered a new era of the Anthropocene or not, I don't think anyone can neglect the fact that human activity has led to significant changes in our planet. It would be hard to convince everyone to take up Pinchot's idea of preservation, but I think Roosevelt's conservation can be put into practice. Even the smallest step towards this ideology could potentially make a big difference. Again, thoughtful, person's actually put some time into that. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, short reflective discussion on 6 topics, 5 of which will. Okay, cool. So those are your discussions. Here's the bigger piece. This is worth 10% of your grade, right? And this is an op-ed in an opinion editorial. And this is on climate change. And when I've gone through the whole syllabus here, I'm going to switch gears and move to D2L, and I'll show you where this is in D2L. But this is an opinion piece on climate change. And if you haven't read an op-ed before, they typically appear on the editorial page in a newspaper, and it's an opinion piece and commentary on, you know, an important issue. So this assignment I'm going to give you is an opportunity to explore climate change, which is a controversial topic, certainly here in the US, in greater depth, right? And it's worth 10%. And again, I'll come back and talk a little bit. Well, actually, let me see if I can, why don't we just do that now? Let me see, this is probably going to be a bit unwieldy. Let's see, where is, let me just get a new share here for a second. Okay, guys, does that show you the TCU D2L page? Are you seeing that? Okay, Claire, can you see that? Just a thumbs up. Thanks, Jet. Okay, cool. All right, so let me show you where the op-ed is. So you click in here. Whoops. Yep, there we go. Here's the course, right? When you look at activities, incidentally, here's discussions, right? So you'll see the 6 discussions. Here are the tweets. So there they are. You'll submit them there, right? When you go under content, in the syllabus is the op-ed and the rubric, right? So if you click on syllabus here, you'll see the syllabus and the op-ed is in there. I've also put it under here, under writing assignment. Okay, the op-ed is under the writing assignment. So when you look at the op-ed, okay, you can see here, there is the op-ed. It is due, let me look at the schedule. It's due on Wednesday, the 28th of July. So you don't have to worry about this right now. I would attempt to do this once we've gotten through week 2 and actually talked about climate change. But here is the prompt, okay? Once we've done the climate change material, I'll talk a bit more about the op-ed, everybody. I've given us, there is a prompt here, right, at the start. Multiple studies published in peer-reviewed scientific journals show that the vast majority of actively publishing climate scientists agree. Climate change is occurring. The warming trends over the past century are extremely likely due to human activities. And it's a potentially very serious problem. That's the prompt. I want your response to that. I've got 5 questions here. You don't have to write the op-ed as a response to exactly these 5 questions, right? These are just questions to get you thinking about formulating your argument, okay? And it says due midnight Friday, July the 30th. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. Let's leave that. Sorry, there's a little conflict there between the schedule and the op-ed. Let's leave it as July the 30th, last day of class, even after the exam, okay? Give you time to wrap that all up, so I'm good with that. And then this is how I grade the op-ed, right? There's a little rubric here, and you can, again, read through this in your own time. So that's where the op-ed is, just incidentally, on D2L. I've also got another PDF here, everybody, in the section on op-eds. It's a nice little discussion. If you click this, it's on how to write an op-ed, okay, from the Harvard Kennedy School. And it's a nice little, very short, 2 pages. Prompt that'll give you some ideas as to how to go about it. But it's worth 10% of your grade, so it's a full letter grade. Okay. Any questions on the op-ed? Okay, good opportunity to put you in a good place for a grade in this course. All right. Okay. All right. So how do grades work in this class, right? So here's what I do. I'll have a spreadsheet at the end of the course, and as you know, you'll have your 3 exam grades. You'll have your 25% from lab. You'll have your discussions and your op-ed. And I put that all into a spreadsheet, and I add it up, and I rank everybody from highest to lowest, right? And the reason why I do this, okay, let me just get the annotation here. So my grading scale is pretty standard, okay? So as you would imagine, an A is 90% or above, right? A B is 80 to 89. But what I don't do, everybody, is look at someone's grade. If you ended up with an 89.417, right? I don't look at that and say, well, I'm not going to round that up. That's a solid B. Okay, that just seems incredibly arbitrary to me, because what that comes down to is one multiple choice question that you may have gotten wrong across an entire semester, right? So I don't add these up, and I don't look at the grade distributions, you know, to decimal points. What I do is I rank your grades from highest to lowest, and I look for statistical breaks, okay, statistical clusters, and it helps you. Clearly, if you get 90 or above, you're in the A's, and if you get 80 or above, 80 to 80, whatever, you're in the B's. But what I mean is this. Let me share another screen. I'm sorry, I'm jumping back between various screens here, but let me see if I can explain this better with a spreadsheet. Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody's looking at the right thing. So everybody looking at an Excel spreadsheet. Michael, can you see that spreadsheet here? Cool, thank you. I'm going to try and zoom in here to make this a little bigger. All right. So, and I'll show you what we're looking at here. Okay, lift it up. Let me just go up. All right. So here's what I'm looking at. Here is the grade distribution with no one's names from the spring semester that I've just chosen. Now, there was a little difference in the spring than what you're doing here. In the spring, I had 5% were tweets, 5% were quizzes, and 5% was the op-ed, right? I've done away with the quizzes here because it's summer and it's just too much work. And so it's 5% for the tweets and 10% for the op-ed. So, but you're looking at the same grade distribution. So these are the actual grades, right? This first column was lab, and these are the ranked grades from highest to lowest. So this student got 97.6 on lab, 100 on exam 1, 97.8 on exam 2, 96.7 on exam 3, okay? They got 95 for the op-ed. They got 5 out of 5% for their quizzes. They got 5 out of 5% for their discussions, and their final average was 98, right? So that's how the spreadsheet looks, okay? The next person down got 97.3. And this column here that I'm just gonna, that you can just highlight, this minus 0.7 obviously is the difference between 98 and 97.3, right? So I then look at the next grade down and look at what the difference was. Obviously, all these people here got A's. So this column H is your final average, 94.7, 91, 90. We come all the way down here to 90, right? This person is a 90, 89.9, there's no difference there. 89.8, there's a minus 0.2, 89.7, there's no difference there. 89.6, minus 0.1, right? Everybody see what's going on here? I'm looking at the grade and the next one down, and I don't see any difference if you just keep an eye on column J, right? Well, there was a 0.4, 0.3, not much here. I keep going down until this row that I've highlighted in red, okay? Here's a cluster difference, a statistical difference. This person got 88.1. This person got 87.2. There was a 0.9% difference in those two grades. So I drew the line here where I've got the red. That's where I drew the line between the A's and the B's, okay? So the person who got 88.1 and above, they got A's. 87.2 below, they got a B down. Does that make sense to everybody, right? At the end of the day, it helps you. It's not handing out grades, but I think it's a fairer, more realistic way of looking at a grade distribution. It's also the reason, everyone, why I don't do extra credit or anything like that. I know students often ask about extra credit. I don't do that. I don't do extra credit because I ask you to do all the credit that's available, and then what happens is it comes back to help you at the end of the semester, rather than offering extra credit and just putting an 89.99 line and drawing that line there, right? But there are some other interesting things about this grade distribution that I do actually just want to spend a minute highlighting here. If I could do that, I don't seem to be able to move that. Yeah. So here's an example. Take a look at this one that I'm just highlighting here, right? This person got an A. They got an average of 88.2, and they fell in that cluster. But look at their exams, 86, 75.6, 93, right? In their exams, the student got a C, a B, and an A. So my message to you here right off the bat, everybody, is don't let one poor exam dictate your final grade, right? If you don't do very well in the first exam, or you don't do as well as you had hoped, there's no reason to throw in the towel and say, well, I got a C on the first exam, I'm toast, right? That's not the case at all, right? See the one above, they got an 80 on this exam. They were still in the A's. Here's one, 92, 77, 86.7. The reason why these people got A's, one, they did well on lab, right? So this person got 93.2, and they did well on their op-eds and their quizzes and their tweets and their discussions, okay? So clearly, if you're up in the top ones here, where you're getting A's for your exams and A's on lab and A's for everything, then you're in good shape. But don't despair if you don't do as well as you had hoped on that first exam. So let me stop there and see if there are any questions. I really want to make sure everybody's comfortable with how the exam grades are figured out in this course. And please don't feel shy if you need to ask a question here.
So what you're saying is we need to make sure that we all cluster together and don't shy too much from the herd.
Well, you know, so herd immunity is good, Matt, in this instant. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the message is, one of the messages, and I find that this is really important over a semester, because a semester is 3.5 months, right, is be consistent in lab, right? Just show up to lab, do the work, hand in your assignments, hand in your labs, do the tweets, and that will put you at a good place right off the bat. Obviously, if you take time and you do your op-ed, some students didn't turn in their op-ed, and that's a letter grade right off the bat, right? So that's one comment. So I agree with you, Matt. The second comment that I have for you is, when it comes to exams, I will do a full review, so I'll give you a sense as to how I set the exam. But I can't stress enough, folks, please don't sort of become a hermit because it's an online course, right? Use me and the access that you have to me to help you, right? I can't help you unless you put yourself out there and say, hey, Mike, I'm in trouble here. I don't understand stratospheric ozone. Would you mind spending half an hour going over with it? Absolutely, right? 100%. Because I can tell you in the exams, and I'll be very clear as we go into the exams, there are certain things that you need to know, right? You need to be able to explain the greenhouse effect. You need to be able to explain the chemistry of the ozone hole. There are just key things that are going to help you in the written part of the exams, right? It's not spoon feeding, it's making sure that you understand the concepts and can apply it. But stay close to the herd. Matt, as long as the herd's up there in the good grades, then stay with the herd. Yeah. Any other questions on how grades are calculated? All good. All right, great. Let's go back to the PowerPoint here for a second. How do grades work? Okay, back at the PowerPoint. So this is less of a concern, the digital leash, right? This thing here, this iPhone and the iPad, this is obviously less of a concern because we are in a digital classroom here. Please make sure that you're as engaged as you can be. I mean, you're all paying good money to take the class at TCU, and I want you to be here and present and engaged in the class. This is more of a concern for me, when I'm in a physical classroom and a phone goes off or someone's texting. Drives me nuts. But we take care of that pretty quickly in the classroom. I don't really have to worry about that, I hope, too much in the online environment. Okay. So this is Zoom etiquette, and then there's a few other things that I want to talk about as it relates to the syllabus. First off, as I said, I'll be posting the lectures. Please don't use that as a reason to skip class, because there are things that happen in class that end up on an exam, right? I will say in class, okay, guys, this is going to be on exam number 1. So I really hope that the lectures that I load will help you. And where I will put them, everybody, is under content in those modules. So you'll see today we're covering, population, and you click on there, you will see a PDF of the slides, right? And then there will be a link to my YouTube channel where you can go back and review the lecture if you want. So there's 2 things under content. One will be the PDF of the slides. The second will be an external link to the lecture itself, okay? There's a number of things in the syllabus, everybody. I'm not going to read through them line by line by line. Most of the things here are common sense and etiquette based. Zoom etiquette, I hope speaks for itself. I've had one problem very early on in our Zooming, and I put a stop to that. So, please don't share the password. Please don't let anybody else log on to class. And just be respectful of each other's opinions is what it comes down to. I will make sure I do the same to you. Let's see. Policies, we've done that. Grading concerns or any concerns, again, just email me, get in touch with me. Happy to meet with you. There's a lot of things in here that are relating to technology policies, emails, course materials, and so on. Please read that in your own time. One thing that is very important to me, and a large part of this is because of where I was born and the period in which I grew up in South Africa, is that I don't stand for any discrimination based on anything. When I say anything, I mean race, gender, or anything like that. I just expect people to treat each other as adults with humanity and be respectful. That doesn't mean that we can't have good, solid, strong disagreements on controversial topics. Absolutely, right? But I don't stand for anything that relates to discrimination in any way, shape, or form. So please be mindful of that. I will ask you at the end of the class to fill out your teaching evaluations. We take those pretty seriously. I look at those, especially the comments on feedback that I will use. And let's see, I think those are the main things as it relates to policies. Let me talk briefly here about my slides and the lecture material. I sometimes see comments in my students' perceptions, the evaluations that I get back, along the lines of, well, I wish there was more material on his slide, right? So what I try and avoid is what I call death by PowerPoint, okay? I really do not like lots and lots and lots of text on a slide. It puts people to sleep, quite frankly. And the details and the information is what I fill in, right? So there will be certain things on my slides. There will be information, like, for example, when we talk about, what's an example? When we talk about population, and I'm going to talk about the doubling time of a population, I'll put the equation for the doubling time for population up on the slide. But you will see far fewer slides that have lots and lots of text on them. They're dull, and bullet points kill a PowerPoint. So here is an example. Here's a typical slide from one of my lectures, right? This comes from the climate change lecture, and we are talking here, and you'll see the slide again, but I've taken this out just as a frame of reference. So we're going to be talking here about global climate change and the response of glaciers to global climate change, right? There's no slide here that has a bullet point with 20 lines of text where I'm just talking to the slide, right? The slide here is a photograph that I took, at a glacial lake that didn't exist 70 years ago in Iceland, right? The picture speaks for itself, and I will talk to the slide about the rate of glacial melt and what a warming world means for the supply of water resources, especially in regions that are dependent upon ice sheets, right? So that's why I want you during these lectures to listen and take notes. Certainly there will be lots of graphics, there will be lots of graphs, okay? And I put those on the slides because I'm more interested in you annotating them and thinking about what they mean than taking things down, right? So the bottom line is, everyone, I'm not going to overwhelm you with lots and lots of text on slides. It's more graphs and images and pictures, and then I will speak to them and hopefully articulate them in a way that is understandable. All good? Makes sense? All right, cool. And then one final thing, and let's just try this here. I'm going to escape out of this for a second, and let me go into all right, let me just okay. Matt, did that change to the website that you see? What 3 words? Okay, cool, thanks. All right. Okay, so let's try this. I asked you in the email to either download on your phone. You can do it on an app, or you can do it on the website. If you just go to mentimeter.com and type in that code that you see at the top there, 91549668. That's all you got to do. So if you can do that now on your phone or online, just go to mentimeter.com. All you got to do is type in that code, 91549668, and just respond to that question. What 3 words come to mind when you hear the phrase, the global environment? And let's see what happens. Hopefully this works. It's been working just fine. Anybody having a problem with that? I don't see anything yet. There we go. Excellent. 3 words. Okay, thanks everybody. I'm just going to let this populate for a second. More people who do this, the better.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's the code again?
91549668. I know there's a way to do this on Zoom with Zoom polls, but I like this little website because it's simple and straightforward. And the size of so this is just producing a word cloud, and the size of the word is how often this occurs: nature, ocean, forest, climate, trees, biodiversity, desert. That's interesting. Yeah. Disasters, climate, ocean, nature. Climate change, ozone, cool, greenhouse gases, nice. We're going to talk about those. Okay. Health, carbon emissions, heat, trees. Yeah, it's really interesting, everyone, when, and I just phrased this partly just to test Mentimeter, just to make sure that it's working. But just to get you thinking about, these things that come to mind. Climate is one, right? And you can see climate there. This is not fixed in any way. Climate is front and center, and it's large there next to nature and ocean. But almost always, that is the one that comes up more frequently, right? And when you look at the schedule, which I'll do just before we start the second part this morning, you'll see that we're going to spend a good chunk talking about climate and climate change, right? I think that is probably, well, I'm not going to say it's the most pressing environmental issue per se, but it's certainly the one that kind of seems to be right at the forefront of the media and the political spectrum, right? I can't tell you how many times I sit at Starbucks blowing through my 401k, drinking coffee, and how many times people will say, they'll see my laptop because I got a TCU sticker on it. Oh, you're at TCU. Are you a student? No, I teach. what do you teach? Environmental science. And then 9 times out of 10, I'll get the dreaded, so do you believe in this global warming thing? It's a question that I get all the time, right? And it always catches me off guard. It always puts me on the back foot, because I should have this 30-second elevator pitch down about climate change, global warming, and everything. The reality is that is the one topic of all the topics that I want you to have a real understanding of, right? So climate comes up a lot, nature, biodiversity. We're going to explore that for sure. I'm going to ask, and I'm going to start every lecture, incidentally, with a question, hopefully a thought-provoking question, like, with biodiversity, why am I spending all this time trying to save rhinos? Would it really matter if all the world's rhinos died, right? Would the world continue to function if we lost all of the world's rhinos? Well, probably, yeah. But there's a reason behind it. There's a reason why people, get involved in environmental issues. So biodiversity, animals, pollution's another big one. I see that there on the left-hand side. We're going to talk about pollution. We're going to talk about air quality a lot, not just air quality in the United States, but air quality around the world, right? There's a lot of things that we take for granted here: water, energy, air quality. Even though a lot of people, grizzle and moan about the air quality in the DFW Metroplex, there are many parts of the world where air quality is a chronic health issue, right? And that also ties, incidentally, into the field of environmental justice, which is what we're going to touch upon as well. So lots of things there on the word cloud that are going to be part of the course, and that is 55 minutes. And so I'm going to take a break here, everybody. Let's take 10 minutes. I'm going to hang around, ask questions away. Michaela, I'm just going to read your chat again, but let's take a break there, and let's start here at 9:10, if that's okay. And we're going to launch into the first sort of formal lecture of the day. Cool. See you back here in about 10 minutes. All right, Michaela, let me look at your...
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. I was trying to get involved with the TCU Rhino Initiative my freshman year, but COVID hit, so I never really got the opportunity to pursue it further.
Right.
And I was just wondering if there was any opportunity. I'm going into my junior year in the next 2 years, if they were going to do a program like that again.
So there is, yeah, absolutely, Michaela, there is. COVID has put such a damper on our international programming, right? And so we are planning and hoping, I'm hopeful that we will pick our study abroad program up next summer.
Okay.
That's the main, that's the main way to get involved. If you can at all swing it in terms of timing, is to come with us on our trip to South Africa. It happens in July. Yeah. And we actually have some really good funding from donors to help students go. So my initial kind of thoughts to you are, when you see the call that comes out about the study abroad program next year, absolutely apply. Don't worry about cost. Don't look at whether you can or can't afford it right off the bat. There's good funding through TCU, through study abroad, and then through some donors that I have through the Rhino Initiative.
Okay, yeah. That sounds pretty good. I mean, for most students going into like their junior and senior year, I know a lot of us do internships or those types of opportunities. But is it like a 1 week or a 2 week, or is it the full month of July normally?
It's basically a 2-week trip. In July, there might be a spring break opportunity to do something.
Yeah.
Sandy Callahan in the Center for Study Abroad also goes to South Africa. It's a bit of a different trip, Michaela, because they focus on community development, and then they go into the reserve and work with the animals for about 3 days. So it's a kind of condensed program over spring break. But the summer one is essentially 2 weeks, 4 days in Cape Town, 10 days in the game reserves, and a day of travel either side.
Got it. Okay, well, yeah, that's really helpful for me to know. I just wanted to know if that was going to continue at all because I know COVID kind of disrupted a lot of things. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for clarifying that.
Yeah, no, absolutely it will. And I'm happy to meet and have a coffee with you and chat about other things. We've got the Rhino Run coming up. There's a Rhino Initiative Club
Yeah.
that is run by students. And yeah, it's an awesome program. And it also opens up, the possibility of getting involved, after TC. So for example, one of my students who started the club is there now. She's just gone down for an internship in the reserves. What's your major, if I could ask?
My major is communications and my minor is race and ethnic studies.
Cool. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, one thing we love about I love about the program is we take students specifically from a breadth of majors, because looking at reserve management, wildlife, and how you integrate wildlife into communities and into a society that still deals with the legacy of apartheid and the inequalities as a result of that, is a critical issue. And so, when we have we've taken students from communications, from art, from business, across the spectrum, because to try and solve an issue like that, yeah, you've got to have biologists and environmental scientists, but you need a breadth of perspective. Because very often with something like the rhino crisis, the local communities are forgotten about, right? People think, oh, I can raise money for rhinos because they're big and they're glamorous.
Right.
But what about the communities around the game reserves, many of which don't benefit directly from all the wealthy people that come and spend, 5 days for a wonderful African safari experience? And so we're very much looking at this from a kind of holistic perspective, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the things why it piqued my interest is because you don't have to necessarily like fall under the branch of environmental science or doing something within the science major, just because you can have a passion for it, but it's not exactly aligning with your major. That gives you the opportunity to still have that experience.
Right. Cool.
Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, good. Happy to chat.